Today, we're breaking down a topic that makes a lot of men confused, frustrated, and sometimes even insecure. What a woman actually feels when you give her space and ignore her. Let's talk about it like men who are trying to understand the psychology behind relationships, not just react to them, because this is one of those situations where your behavior can completely flip the dynamic without you raising your voice, sending long messages, or trying to convince her of anything. Now, here's the part that might surprise you. Ignoring a woman or giving her space doesn't always create the reaction you think it will. Most men expect that she'll simply move on, forget about them, or feel nothing at all. But in reality, space is one of the most powerful emotional triggers in dating and relationships. It forces her to confront thoughts, feelings, and fears she normally avoids, and that's exactly why we're talking about it today. Think of it this way. When a woman is used to your attention, your presence, your energy, and suddenly that rhythm changes, her mind doesn't stay quiet. It starts asking questions, it starts replaying moments, it starts wondering why the dynamic shifted. And it's in those moments that you gain more insight into her interest level and her emotional connection than any text message or argument could ever reveal. As men, we often try too hard to fix things instantly. We chase answers, we chase clarity, we chase validation, but sometimes the smartest move is stepping back and letting silence do the heavy lifting. When you understand what space does to a woman emotionally, mentally, and even biologically, you stop seeing distance as weakness and start seeing it as strategy. So in this video, we're going to break down exactly what she feels, why she reacts the way she does, and how that space changes the power dynamics between you and her. Let's get into it. 1. She feels the sudden shift in energy. When you pull back and give a woman space, the very first thing she notices isn't the silence or the lack of messages. It's the shift in energy. Women are incredibly attuned to emotional changes, especially when it comes to men they care about, are curious about, or are used to receiving attention from. That shift hits her differently because it interrupts a pattern she has grown comfortable with, and anytime you interrupt a pattern, the mind cannot ignore it. Think about the dynamic before you pulled back. Maybe you were the one initiating conversations, responding quickly, showing interest, checking in, or consistently being available. That becomes a rhythm, it becomes predictable, and even if she didn't fully appreciate it before, she felt it. Energy is something people sense more than they consciously analyze. So when your energy suddenly changes, when you become quieter, slower to respond, less emotionally present, her emotions pick up on that before her logic does. This shift triggers something deeper, because it questions the unspoken agreement she assumed existed. She thought she knew how you operated. She thought she understood your emotional position. Maybe she even assumed you would always be available. Suddenly, that entire internal map rearranges itself. And for a lot of women, the first feeling is confusion, not anger. She's trying to figure out why the vibe changed. What happened? Did she miss something? Did she say something that shifted your mood? This confusion is powerful, because confusion always leads to curiosity. But the shift in energy affects her in another way men often underestimate. When you were consistently present, the emotional comfort she got from your attention became background noise, something she didn't always acknowledge but still benefited from. Your presence validated her. Your messages reminded her she was wanted. Your interest reassured her. Once that pullback happens, she doesn't just feel the loss of communication, she feels the loss of that emotional comfort. The absence becomes louder than the presence ever was. She also begins evaluating the contrast between your old energy and your new one. Before, your energy may have felt familiar, predictable, maybe even ordinary. Now, the change makes you stand out. When a man withdraws calmly, without attitude or bitterness, it signals confidence. It signals emotional control. It signals that you're not desperate for her attention. That quiet creates a different kind of presence, a stronger one. Instead of leaning toward her, you're centered in your own space, and women notice when a man shifts into that position. Finally, she feels the impact because energy is personal. You changed something that involved her, even if you didn't announce it. Whether she likes you a little or a lot, that shift forces her to recalibrate her understanding of you, And because she didn't control the shift, it holds weight. The sudden change in your energy isn't just distance, it's a message, not spoken, not typed, but felt. And for many women, that feeling is the start of everything that comes next. 2. Her mind starts filling the silence. When you give a woman space, one of the most controversial but undeniable things that happens is this: her mind doesn't stay quiet. Silence is not neutral for most women. It's emotional, it's psychological, and in many cases, it's intimidating in a way they don't openly admit. Because when you stop talking, her thoughts start talking for you, and they're often louder, deeper, and more dramatic than anything you could have said. Women are naturally wired to look for meaning, especially in relationships. So when the constant flow of your attention stops, her mind rushes to fill in the blanks. And what makes this powerful, and sometimes uncomfortable, is that her imagination almost always paints a more extreme scenario than reality. She starts wondering if you're losing interest, talking to someone else, getting bored, or simply no longer affected by her behavior. Whether any of this is true doesn't matter. What matters is that her silence becomes the perfect environment for mental storytelling. The controversial part? Many women don't realize how much of their emotional investment is revealed when a man goes quiet. When you're always present, always reachable, always engaged, she doesn't have to wonder. She doesn't have to think deeply. She doesn't have to analyze anything. But the moment you step back, you give her mind room to start doing all of that. And here's the twist. The longer the silence lasts, the more her imagination builds you up. She starts replaying moments, dissecting conversations, thinking about how you were acting before and comparing that to now. She'll remember things you said that she didn't pay attention to before. She'll question if her last message came off wrong, if she pushed too hard, if she didn't show enough interest, or if she underestimated how much she valued your presence. Most men don't understand how deeply this process affects her because women rarely admit it. Instead, they play it cool externally while internally trying to control a narrative that keeps slipping out of their hands. Silence also forces her to confront things she may have been avoiding. If she was taking you for granted, she starts noticing it. If she assumed you'd never pull away, she realizes she was wrong. If she thought she had all the power in the dynamic, your quiet creates a shift she cannot ignore. Space exposes her emotional patterns in ways that conversations never could. The reason this is controversial is because it challenges the idea that only men overthink. The truth is, many women overthink even more. They just do it in silence. And when you stop filling the space with reassurance, validation, or attention, her mind steps in and does the job for you. Your silence isn't empty. It's a mirror, and it makes her see things she didn't see when you were available. It's in that quiet space where her real feelings start to surface, whether she wanted them to or not. 3. She begins questioning her own actions. When you give a woman space and step back from the connection, something emotional begins happening beneath the surface, something most men never get to see. She starts questioning her own actions, not in a dramatic, chaotic way, but in a quiet, personal way that hits deeper than she expects. And this is where the emotional shift becomes real. At first, she might tell herself everything is fine. She might even pretend she doesn't care. But as the silence continues, she starts replaying moments, conversations, and decisions she made with you. She begins wondering if she pushed too hard, if she was too distant, or if she unintentionally dismissed the effort you were giving. Women feel things in layers, and when your presence suddenly fades, those layers start peeling back one by one. This questioning isn't just about you, it's about how she showed up in the dynamic. If she took your attention lightly, it begins to bother her. If she thought you'd always stick around no matter what, that belief begins to shake. She starts remembering the moments when you were trying and she didn't respond the way you deserved. She reflects on the times she may have brushed things off, acted cold, or assumed you'd wait for her to figure out her feelings. Space has a way of turning those moments into emotional echoes, and here's where it hits her emotionally. She realizes she may have misjudged your value. She realizes she may have misread your intentions. She realizes she may have underestimated how much your presence added to her life until that presence became uncertain. That realization doesn't sit lightly. It creates a sense of emotional responsibility, a feeling that maybe she should have treated the connection with more care. This questioning can also make her feel vulnerable. She starts worrying that her actions might have silently pushed you away. She thinks about how she responded during arguments, how she behaved when things were good, or whether she made you feel unwanted. Even small things she thought didn't matter suddenly feel significant because she's viewing them through the lens of potential loss. The emotional weight grows when she thinks about how you might be feeling. Did she make you feel unappreciated? Did you pull back because you were hurt? Was she too focused on her own feelings to see yours? These thoughts don't always lead to panic, but they lead to reflection. And reflection is where emotional clarity often begins. What makes this stage powerful is that it's internal. Nobody sees it. Women won't post about it, talk about it, or show it. But they feel it. They feel the shift in your distance, and they feel the possibility that their actions may have played a part in it. Your silence gives her the emotional space to step into honesty with herself. And in that emotional honesty, she begins to understand what your presence truly meant and what your absence is now teaching her. 4. Her emotional curiosity intensifies. When you give a woman space, something interesting and surprisingly powerful happens. Her emotional curiosity doesn't just rise, it intensifies. And this isn't the shallow kind of curiosity like wondering what you ate for lunch or whether you're busy. This is deeper. It's the kind of curiosity that pulls her attention back toward you even when she tries to stay unfazed. At first, she may brush it off. She may tell herself you're just busy or distracted. But as more time passes without your usual presence, her curiosity starts activating on a more emotional level. She begins wondering not just what you're doing, but how you're feeling. Are you calm? Are you unbothered? Are you moving on? Those questions carry weight because they challenge the assumptions she had about her place in your life. What makes this stage engaging is that emotional curiosity is subtle at first, then grows sharper. She tries to piece together clues from your last conversations, the tone in your voice, the last message you sent, or the way you were behaving before the distance showed up. Women are natural emotional investigators. They notice small shifts, and when you create space, you give her mind room to explore possibilities she didn't even think about before. Her curiosity becomes even more intense when she realizes she doesn't have access to your emotions anymore. Before, she could sense how much you cared by how quickly you replied, how you spoke to her, or how engaged you were. But now, silence creates mystery, and mystery creates emotional pull. It makes her lean in, even if she doesn't want to admit it. She starts asking herself questions she never asked when you were fully available. Why did he stop investing? What changed? Did I matter more than I realized? Those questions spark feelings she thought she had under control. The interesting part is that emotional curiosity often turns into emotional concern. Not fear, not panic, just a deeper interest in where she really stands with you. She may check your social media without engaging, read old conversations to look for hints, or think about things you said that didn't seem important at the time. This curiosity comes from a place of wanting clarity, but knowing she can't get it easily anymore. Then there's another layer, curiosity about your growth. Men who pull back don't usually do it randomly. Women sense when you're becoming more focused, more independent, more internally stable. That pulls her curiosity even harder because emotional evolution is attractive. She wonders if you're changing, leveling up, or becoming more selective. And that curiosity can often spark a desire to reconnect because she doesn't want to feel like she's losing access to the version of you she once knew. The more she thinks, the more she feels. And the more she feels, the more she becomes drawn back into the connection. Emotional curiosity isn't just interest, it's momentum. And when space amplifies that momentum, it shifts the dynamic in ways you never had to force. 5. She starts comparing your absence to other men's behavior. When you give a woman space and pull back your attention, something very human begins happening in her mind. She starts comparing. Not because she's keeping score, but because your absence makes your behavior stand out in a way other men never did. Suddenly, she notices the contrast. She notices the difference between the way you handle space and the way most men respond when they feel distance. And this comparison becomes even clearer when she thinks about the kinds of men she's seen in real life and even in movies. Imagine a scene from a movie where the male lead doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't crumble. Instead, he steps back with calm confidence. Think of someone like Ryan Gosling's character in La La Land. When he feels the relationship shifting, he doesn't explode or cling. Instead, he goes inward, focuses on his dreams, and lets space speak for him. That kind of silence creates tension. Not the negative kind, but the kind that makes the woman realize she's dealing with a man who has depth, self-respect, and purpose. Your distance taps into that same emotional blueprint. In her mind, she compares your calm to the overreactions she's seen from other men. She remembers guys who panicked the moment she seemed distant, men who blew up her phone, men who couldn't handle silence without trying to force reassurance, men who felt threatened by space. Those behaviors made her feel suffocated, not valued. So when you handle space with patience and emotional control, you separate yourself from the rest. You don't fit the predictable pattern. And the mind always pays attention to what breaks a pattern. Your absence also makes her compare how she felt around you versus how she feels now that you're not there. When you were consistently present, she got used to a certain emotional rhythm, your texts, your presence, your energy. Now that you've stepped back, that rhythm is interrupted, and she notices she feels something different, something she didn't feel with other men. It's not just that you're gone. It's that the connection feels different when you're the one who steps away. This comparison can bring up an emotional twist. She may realize that other men didn't have the same emotional impact on her. Their absence didn't make her think. Their silence didn't make her curious. Their distance didn't make her question anything. But yours does. That difference speaks louder than anything you could say. She may even think of moments from movies where the woman thought she had the upper hand until the man withdrew with quiet confidence. And suddenly she realized how much he meant to her. Scenes where the man's absence revealed his value more than his presence ever could. It sticks with her because she sees that same dynamic playing out in real time with you. Your space forces a comparison she can't ignore, not between you and other men, but between how they made her feel and how you make her feel. And that realization hits much deeper than any conversation ever could. 6. She reevaluates your value and her feelings. When you give a woman space, something shifts, not just in how she sees you, but in how she sees herself in relation to you. And this part is important for men to understand, because it's not about manipulation or games. It's about what naturally happens when a man stops pouring all his energy outward and starts holding it for himself. That shift forces her to reevaluate your value, and this time, she evaluates it from a place of clarity instead of comfort. Most men underestimate how much their consistency, attention, and emotional presence mean to a woman. When you're always available, always responsive, always trying to make things work, she becomes accustomed to it. Not because she's selfish, but because humans adapt to whatever feels normal. But when you step back, calmly, not angrily, she suddenly sees the difference between what she had with you and what she has without you. And that contrast makes her reassess everything. She starts thinking about how you handled situations, how you treated her, how you listened, how you showed up. She begins comparing the effort you gave to the effort she offered. She remembers times when you were patient, when you tried to talk things through, when you made her feel understood. These moments hit differently when you're not around, and that's when she begins to realize how much emotional value you brought into the connection. What makes this even more meaningful is that men rarely get to witness this process. When you were present, she may have taken some of those qualities for granted, the same way men often take certain female qualities for granted until they're gone. But when your energy is no longer right there for her to lean on, she begins reevaluating her own behavior toward you. She may realize she didn't give back enough. She may realize she expected too much without appreciating the effort behind it. She may even recognize that she made assumptions about you that weren't fair. The interesting part? Space makes her evaluate not just what you gave, but what she feels. And this is where the dynamic shifts in your favor as a man. Because when a woman has space to reflect without your presence influencing her emotions, she sees the connection more honestly. She notices whether she misses you out of genuine care or out of convenience. She notices whether her life feels emptier without your energy or whether she was simply comfortable with the attention. That honesty is powerful because it reveals the truth without pressure. From a man's perspective, this reevaluation is the moment where your value becomes clearer than ever, not because you demand it, but because your absence highlights it. You didn't convince her. You didn't chase her. You didn't try to make her see your worth. You simply stepped back and allowed the emotional reality to reveal itself. And the truth is, when a woman reevaluates a man after he gives her space, she often realizes he brought more to the connection than she acknowledged. Your value becomes undeniable, and she feels it more deeply when you're not standing right in front of her. 7. She feels the pull to reconnect and regain your attention. As the silence deepens and space settles in, something shifts inside her, a pull she didn't expect, a growing desire to reconnect and regain your attention. And this isn't about ego or competition. It's about the emotional gravity that forms when a man stops pouring all his energy outward and becomes centered in himself. That shift creates a magnetic effect, and she starts feeling it more intensely than she anticipated. In the beginning, she may have thought the distance wouldn't affect her. Maybe she assumed you would eventually come back on your own. Maybe she believed she had all the time in the world to reply whenever she wanted or to choose how close she wanted the connection to feel. But as soon as you step back without pushing, without explaining yourself endlessly, and without trying to win her over, she starts to sense the power of your absence, and that power draws her back in. This pull she feels is rooted in something deeply human. When someone who once offered warmth, interest, and emotional presence no longer does, the heart notices. She begins to feel the gap where your attention used to be. She starts craving the energy she once overlooked. She misses the way you made her feel, even if she didn't always show it. And that desire to reconnect isn't forced. It's emotional gravity doing its work. What makes it engaging from a man's perspective is that this is the moment when she stops being passive. Instead of you reaching toward her, she feels a natural urge to move toward you. She might send a subtle message, watch your stories more often, or try to create a reason to talk to you again. These small steps are her way of testing the waters, trying to understand if the connection is still alive. But underneath that, something deeper is happening. She wants to feel the version of you she's now remembering more clearly, the man who was consistent, understanding, and present. The man who had emotional patience but also emotional boundaries. The man who didn't collapse under pressure or chase approval. That version of you becomes more attractive the moment you remove your attention from her daily experience. And here's the key. It's not just that she wants your attention back. She wants to feel chosen again. She wants to feel that spark she once felt around you. She wants to know she still holds a place in your world. The space you created made her question, reflect, and rediscover what she felt for you. Now she wants reassurance, not because she's unsure of you, but because she's unsure of whether she still has access to you. This pull is powerful because you didn't force it, you didn't manipulate it, you simply allowed the emotional dynamic to breathe. And when a woman feels that shift, it draws her back in ways talking never could. Space creates clarity, and clarity creates desire. And that's exactly why when you step back with confidence, she begins stepping forward with curiosity, and eventually intention. When you give a woman space, you're not pushing her away. You're allowing the truth of the connection to reveal itself. Your silence, your distance, and your emotional control create clarity for both of you. She begins to feel, question, and reevaluate things she never noticed when you were always present. Her curiosity grows, her emotions deepen, and she becomes more aware of your value. Space isn't about punishment or games. It's about stepping back so the real dynamic can surface. When you stay centered, confident, and grounded, she naturally gravitates back toward the energy she once took for granted.